This is the Clark County Training Division's video demonstrations on the SAM splint product. While you will not be expected to know all of the many varieties of shapes and configurations that will be shown here, it is advantageous to have other methods of splinting techniques in your toolbox.
The adjustable C-collar. If no preformed cervical collar is available, a 36-inch SAM splint can be used to form an adjustable C-collar. Fold a 36-inch SAM splint 5 inches from the end. Bracing your thumbs on each side of the fold, pull the upper edges toward you to create a V-shaped chin rest. Place the chin rest beneath the patient's chin and lower jaw. Be careful to avoid pressure on the front of the neck. Loop the remaining portion of the splint loosely in a clockwise fashion around the neck. Bring the end forward and down in an oblique direction until it touches the chest. This creates the correct chin-to-chest distance for the chin post. While continuing to support the chin, bring the chest portion of the splint around the original chin rest to create a chin post. Squeeze to deepen the chin post. Insert your index fingers in each side of the looped splint. Pull outward and squeeze to create two side or lateral posts and ensure a snug fit. If the patient is sitting, you can form a back or posterior post in a similar manner. Fold up any excess splint and secure with tape or your wrap of choice. The knee immobilizer. For a knee immobilizer, you will need two 36-inch SAM splints. Fold a 36-inch splint in the center to create two equal halves. Spread the two halves to produce a fan-shaped splint, wider at the top for the thigh and narrower at the bottom for the calf. Apply tape to the top and middle portions of the splint to maintain the fan shape. Form a C-curve in the splint for strength and fit. Create a second fan-shaped splint. Place one splint on each side of the knee and make fine adjustments to fit. Apply your wrap of choice. The T-beam wrist splint. Use the T-beam wrist splint when extra strength is needed. Fold a 36-inch SAM splint in half so one half is approximately 4 inches longer than the other. Apply the T-curve to the shorter half of the splint to create a T-shaped beam. Place this T-shaped beam as a support against the longer half of the splint and fold over the excess splint. This may be secured with tape. Form a C-curve in the flat surface of the splint. Then, using your own right or left wrist and forearm as a template, shape the splint to fit. Apply the splint to the patient and secure with your wrap of choice. The upper arm humeral shaft splint. Fold 1/3 of a 36-inch splint upon itself to create a 12-inch section of double-layered splint. Curve the double layer into a fishhook shape and secure the double layer with your wrap of choice. Form a C-curve along the shank of the fishhook for strength and fit. Apply the splint to the patient. Fold any excess splint over the patient's shoulder or back upon itself, and secure with your wrap of choice. Apply a sling and swathe. The figure of 8 splint. If a patient has to walk in rough terrain on the injured limb, you may choose to leave footwear in place. If footwear is removed, or whenever the ankle is exposed, place padding above and around the bony prominences on each side of the ankle. Lay a 36-inch SAM splint flat. Place the patient's foot in the middle of the splint so that the splint lies just forward to the heel. Conform one half of the splint snugly around the ankle. Then fold the second half of the splint around the first in a figure of 8 position. Crimp as necessary to fit. Secure with your wrap of choice. The dislocated elbow splint. Using the patient's non-affected arm, extend a 36-inch splint from just below the patient's armpit to the knuckles. Fold over any portion of the splint that extends beyond the knuckles. Form a C-curve down the entire length of the splint. Using your own right or left arm as a template, shape the splint to fit. Create reverse C-curve bends on the edges as needed for strength. Apply the splint to the patient and secure with your wrap of choice. The sugar tong splint. Fold the SAM splint in half. To obtain the correct length, use the patient's arm as a template. Place the folded splint around the elbow so the end of the top half stops at the knuckles. Fold the bottom half down, even with the top. Form the C-curve in each half. Extend the C-curve no farther than 2/3 the distance down each half. If you extend the curve farther, it will limit your ability to fold the splint around the elbow. Using your own right or left arm as a template, shape the splint to the wrist and forearm. Pad any bony prominences about the wrist and elbow, and fit the splint to the patient. Secure with your wrap of choice. The SAM sling. The intended users of the SAM sling include emergency medical services, hospital emergency departments, search and rescue personnel, wilderness and remote medical providers, military. The SAM sling is the first and only force-controlled circumferential pelvic belt designed to provide safe and effective reduction and stabilization of pelvic fractures. SAM sling application on a patient in the supine position. The patient may or may not be on a backboard. Before applying the sling, check the patient's belt and pockets for any hard objects, such as a cell phone or keys. You may even want to remove a large belt buckle. Also, be sure to remove any debris, such as rocks or glass, from the patient. Next, locate the bony prominences on the sides of the hips, called the greater trochanters. These prominences are generally at the same level of the symphysis pubis and buttocks. This is the correct level for sling application. Place the sling beneath the small of the back and generally center the buckle in the midline. With your hands beneath the lower buttocks, gently lift the patient approximately 1 centimeter. Then slide the sling down to the predetermined level. Check again to ensure that the sling is centered over the trochanters and the buckle is in the midline. Next, firmly wrap the padded flap and webbing around the body to ensure a snug fit. Secure the sling to the patient by pressing the Velcro-type surface of the padded flap against the blue belt. Once the sling is secured to the body, hold the padded flap in place and lift the free pull handle away from the flap. Then grasp the fixed pull handle on the other side of the belt and pull the handles in opposite directions. Pull until you hear or feel the buckle click or stop. When you determine the buckle has engaged, do not release tension. Maintain tension and firmly press the free pull handle against the belt. The Velcro hooks on the surface of the free pull handle will secure it in place. The
Underneath the knees. Okay, make sure you got the leading edge. The right edge? Okay. Alright, I'm just going to pull it against yourself. Pull a little more toward you. Yeah, okay. Down?
Yeah, I guess the things are just and then I'll be there as soon as I can.
You like those
Yeah,
tags?
stand as soon as I can.
Oh, you're playing with my light? The blue light in the back doesn't work. It has a light in the back so your buddy can follow you. Oh, it doesn't work. That's like that.
We'd tuck and we'd also tape, just to make sure it stays. Make sure all the ends are tucked in. Tape across to make sure it stays.